the thermostat that warmed the room for a stranger. At 6:02 a.m., the thermostat congratulated me for saving energy while I was not alone. "Great night," it chirped on the little screen above our light switch. "Eco mode off at 3:11 a.m. Occupancy detected." The graph beside the smile showed a polite hill of heat rising when the city was asleep, and I was a modest lump of breath under the duvet. Someone had walked past the sensor, and the apartment decided to be warmer to them than to me. We were a house that believed in small competence. Lyra slept with her palm open on my ribs like she was taking attendance of my breath. On Sundays, I ironed pillowcases because flat cotton feels like a promise heat can keep. Our balcony forgave being too narrow for two chairs by letting us take turns and calling it choreography. When rain arrived late, we cracked the window and let the city wash its face while we washed each other's. Her knee hooking behind my thigh like a knot meant for boats, my mouth finding that nickel-bright patch beneath her collarbone where breath admits it wants to be heat. We thought we were protecting something by not nomming it too loudly. The drift learned our alphabet before I said it out loud. Rosemary left the kitchen. Something mineral moved in, citrus poured over stone, a scent with posture that walked from room to room like it had paid a deposit. Sound followed suit. Her phone learned a two-note chime at 12:06 and 12:11, a doorbell for a smaller house someone had built inside ours. "London," she said when she caught me counting. "Their morning keeps trespassing on my midnight." She started showering in the dark. "Migraine," she told the mirror. "I learned to shave by memory and called that loyalty because it costs less than questions." The thermostat's app loved to talk. My phone filled with tidy bars and timestamps like a bureaucrat practicing empathy. Eco off 3:11, heat hold 21 degrees C. Bedroom motion 3:13, hall motion 3:28, kitchen 3:31. "Welcome home," it wrote brightly at 3:34 as if the apartment had stood up to clap. The device had also, out of kindness, created a new schedule called Night Guest that I had never programmed. It suggested I name your routine for seamless comfort. I made coffee like a person trying to keep boiling from being the only verb. Lyra came in wearing my old t-shirt and the careful quiet of someone who had rehearsed her posture. She kissed my mouth with accurate affection, the kind that recruits your body while sparing your hope. "You were up early," she said, inspecting fruit as if it were a deadline. The apartment hung the mineral scent on her like a scarf. "Thermostat threw a party," I said to the sink. She laughed into the refrigerator. "Is that what we call insomnia now?" Under the table, her foot slid along my shin. "Our oldest code, stay." We did our choreography at the counter, eggs, steam, 2 plates finding wood, and the intimacy of doing dishes shoulder to shoulder almost convinced me that graphs were a misunderstanding. Later in bed, she crossed her knee behind my thigh and guided my hand under her shirt the way a person turns on a familiar lamp. My mouth found the small bright coin beneath her collarbone. She made the low vowel that dims a city. We moved with the fluency of people who have taught each other the weather. In the middle, her eyes walked somewhere else and returned with apology penciled along the edge. "Pencil erases clean if you don't press." I exhaled and did not press. Evidence is the frightened man's hobby. My phone was a generous archive. I started a folder on my laptop named Heat because I wanted the work to sound mechanical. Into it went screenshots of the climate graph, the new routine's name, the motion pings like a metronome for a song I hadn't asked to hear. In the glove compartment, my fingers discovered the obedient half of a cufflink, mother of pearl held in gunmetal, the size of a coin you pay a ferryman when you're light on truth. I held it to the window and watched my face bend wrong inside its milky eye. Beneath the sofa, as if shy about its confession, lay a candle with a gold label and a wick gone oval from being blown out in a hurry. The scent on the box said Lune Salé in fonts that knew they were expensive. Salted Moon. We met in a stairwell the night the elevator decided to teach patience. Stairwells tell the truth, she said, shoes in one hand, grin rehearsed for a dare. On the landing, she pressed her thumb to the thin place at my wrist and told me to keep still while she memorized me with her mouth. Later, in my bed, she slept with her palm over my ribs like gravity had asked for a cosigner. In the morning, I photographed her shoulder in honest light and believed the room had agreed to remember us kindly. At noon, while pretending to look for a hardware store, I walked to the glass wedge by the river that sells weather and discretion. Harbor Line had heat lamps outside pretending the month had not made other plans. The lobby smelled like time and receipts. A man with careful shoulders and a jaw that has always been answered slid 2 fingers across the concierge desk without touching and received the kind of smile that arrives for men who don't need to ask twice. Slate jacket, hair parted by geometry. I ordered the cheapest beer the bar rescented and tipped like apology. Near the elevator, a cheerful tablet invited me to sync your smart home to set the mood before you arrive. The words set the mood took their shoes off and lay down in my chest. On my way back, I stopped in our building's lobby for a parcel. The night porter, who knows my name better than the intercom does, said, "You left your scarf," and handed me a beautifully folded one, hers smelling of Lune Salé and an iron with more discipline than mine. "She dropped it around 3, he added, unhelpfully kind. Sunday wanted witnesses because courage likes even numbers. Her cousin Mykola is decent in a way that looks good 3 days later. My friend Alia moves heavy things and refuses to narrate them. I invited them for dinner and called it a menu test because parties are scaffolding. The apartment learned to smell like garlic telling the truth. At 7:52, Lyra texted 15, which in our new arithmetic is 30. At 8:23, she came in with indoor wind on her cheeks and kissed me with accurate affection in front of them, practicing civilization like a sport. We ate. Laughter borrowed our mouths and the table behaved. After coffee, I set my phone down and opened the Thermostat app as if revealing a painting. "The house knows more than I do," I said. The graph hummed its hill of heat. A notification blinked a cheerful reminder. "Night guest repeats tonight, confirm." Alia placed her palm flat on the table, the old signal for do not let the wood try to fly. Mykola studied my face instead of the screen, which is a discipline and a blessing. "We should talk privately," Lyra said, the conference room arriving in our kitchen. "We will," I said, "but I need witnesses that I didn't dream a thermostat." They left. The apartment remembered how to be only a room. Lyra reached for the candle box with 2 fingers and set it beside the phone, as if giving exhibits names would make them adopt manners. "I told myself it was a hallway," she said finally. "Somewhere I could stand without a tour guide. I liked the echo." She lifted the cufflink half and watched its milky eye refuse to blink. "Is he married?" I asked, bureaucracy for ghosts. "Separating," she said. "A daughter, 7. "Do you love him?" The word sat down and crossed its legs like it wasn't going anywhere. She lifted her face toward the ceiling crack that looks like a river refusing to choose a mouth. "I love who I am when I stop narrating," she said. "With you I started describing myself from outside like I owed footnotes to my own breathing." He turned the placards around and said he believed the painting without the text. She did not cry. It would have been impolite to the truth. "I loved us like architecture," she said quietly. "I wanted weather." "We're going to separate," I told her. We did the clean work a knife does when you've sharpened it for fruit and end up using it for rope." She nodded, and the hinge between her collarbones relaxed with a relief I couldn't call cruelty because it told the truth. "Do you want me to go now?" she asked. "I want you to stop teaching the house to warm for someone else," I said. "Pick a door. I'll take the other." Leaving looks fast only to people watching from windows. She took the hoodie, the charger that fits everything, and the scent that had trained corners to stand straighter. She left the cufflink half, the candle, and a thermostat that still believed all guests deserve comfort. At the threshold, she lifted her hand toward my wrist, the old code, thumb to thin skin, and changed her mind midair. The absence of contact marked me more cleanly than touch would have. I was happy, she said, and greedy, and afraid. And sorry. "You were alive," I said. "So am I." He wrote once as scripts require. Corporate letterhead sorted into contrition, respect, timing, a hope we could proceed as gentlemen, a noun that fails most stress tests. I forwarded it to a lawyer whose office lives above a cobbler. The stairs smell like leather and old rain. She asked the only useful question: outcome or scene? "Outcome," I said, surprising the piece of me that keeps a theater troupe on retainer. "Good," she said. "Bring boring dates, doors, dollars, screenshots over speeches. One witness who loves you without auditioning, and don't send your heart by text. Judge's itch." I forwarded his note to Alia, who replied with the three-word liturgy that belongs laminated above a stove: block, breathe, boil. I boiled water until the window wrote a softer weather over the city's hard face. The bed learned my outline again. The two-note phantom chimed in my head at 12, 11 for a week, and then retired when I stopped setting a chair for it. I changed the Wi-Fi password to a sentence about bridges and motion and taped it inside the cabinet where the salt lives because faith should be findable. I reset the thermostat to my name, deleted night guest, and turned off the cheerful things. "No learning," I told it. "Just heed." Desire didn't resign. It reorganized its shelves. Some nights my body remembers the exact weight of her knee hooking behind my thigh and the soft, unreasonable sound she made when my mouth found heat under her collarbone. Memory is accurate and unkind. I let it sing to the chorus, and then I make tea. The kettle's small scream is the only emergency I answer after midnight. I press my thumb to the thin place at my wrist where her old code used to land and listen to the sentence the body never misquotes. "Here, here, here." Once, because endings itch, I walked to Harbor Line at 3:11 a.m., the hour my house had warmed itself for a stranger. The lobby smelled like time and receipts. The elevators did arithmetic for people who buy altitude and call it absolution. I stood under heat lamps pretending summer and forgave the numbers for being innocent. The bartender poured water with the same respect he gives to men auditioning for regret and took a too large tip without arguing. I went home with air in my hands and a decision in my mouth I didn't need to say out loud. Back in the apartment, I opened the windows wide and let honest cold move through every room. The thermostat shivered, then listened. I set 2 chairs on the too narrow balcony and let one be empty without inventing a ghost to sit in it. I scrubbed the mineral perfume out of the curtains. I learned to bake bread badly and on purpose, to fill the place with a heat that had an origin I could point to. I returned the candle to the store and bought basil instead. It forgave my enthusiasm, the way green things forgive earnest amateurs. The decree arrived on paper thick enough to cosplay gravity. I folded it and slid it beneath the tray by the door where keys and small solutions live. I carried the cufflink half to a thrift shop and dropped it into a dish with other orphans. It made a polite clink like punctuation, finding its place in a sentence that no longer needed revision. The woman behind the counter said to the air, "Some pairs sleep better apart," and I gave her the nod you owe strangers who bless you without asking for your story. The last time I saw Lyra, the elevator performed its secular magic of coincidence. We arrived at the lobby on the same chime. She wore a coat the color of decisions and carried a paper bag of oranges like a rationed son. "Hey," she said, neighbor quiet. "Sleep." "Better," I said, and the word didn't ask for applause. She adjusted her scarf and didn't touch my wrist. I admired her restraint and then my own. The doors closed and returned each of us to our earned floors. Sometimes, out of mischief or mercy, I switched the thermostat to manual and let the apartment be exactly as warm as I say. No learning, no suggestions. I cook. I salt water. I turn the lamp low. When night settles and the window blackens into a polite mirror, I tell the house out loud what I taught the man living in it. Not tonight. Not anymore. Warm for me when I'm here. Hold.